So with that one change, is there any other changes?
Yes.
All right.
Item 8.1, Victim Services is putting a request for project approval, and Jennifer Zatko was not put on as a scheduled delegate, and she's on our Zoom meeting right now.
Yeah, I'm presuming that she'll be wanting to speak as a public delegation. So.
Either or, if in fact that goes a little longer than, but yeah, public delegation.
So that's not a change to our agenda at this point?
Yeah, if you prefer it to be public, then that's fine.
Okay. No other changes? Get a motion to adopt the agenda? Councilor Long makes that. All in favor? All right. Now, at some point, well, perhaps I'm just thinking so that I can see what Donna is holding. Could you be Donna's hand?
Yeah, keep my hand.
Oh, there she is. Okay.
There's my hand.
Perfect. That works. And I can hear you now, Donna. Okay. So we're moving on to our delegations, and I guess I'll ask if Jennifer wants to be a public delegation to speak to our council. I know you are on our agenda later on, but if you would like to speak to council now, you could do so. Oh, you're still muted, Jen. There we go.
But it doesn't matter to me. Either it's just answer questions, or I can give a brief outline of what I'm looking to do. It's up to what they would prefer me to do.
Sure. Why don't you give us a brief overview of what you're looking to do, and then if we have questions, we'll ask them.
Perfect. So I am looking to have board approval to put in a crosswalk, an intersection, acknowledging the Indigenous or the residential schools as survivors, as well as the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. I believe that there should be some type of acknowledgement happen. I'd love to see it in the community. A lot of my clients and a lot of the surrounding nations and settlements do a lot of business in town, and I just think it would be wonderful for them to see that acknowledgement.
Okay, are you ready for questions?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, I'll start with one and just help me understand what this would look like. How does it differentiate between a normal crosswalk that we have in town? What would that look like?
So, for example, there is one, I believe it's in Hay River. It's a crosswalk, and they stenciled feathers onto it. Another one in orange and stencil feathers inside of it. What I'm proposing to do, and please know that this is still in the beginning of works, as I needed council approval first before I went to the nations and settlements, is more. So what we were proposing was to have the feathers to acknowledge the First Nations, and to have the infinity sash to acknowledge the Métis settlements that we have in the area. The border of the crosswalk or intersection, depending on how the designs go, would be the red handprints from the women and elders, signifying the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, and then there would be the children's handprints in orange over top, in acknowledgement of the residential schools. guides put into place. And there would still have to be input from the nations and the settlement. So a final draft would be brought to you prior to it being done. So I'm just looking for approval to be able to go to the nations and settlements and have their input with what they would like to see as acknowledgement from the town.
Okay, and did you have a location in mind at this point, or not yet? You're just looking for the general principle, or the approval, and then work on details after?
Well, yeah. Selfishly, I'd like to have it in front of my bank so I can see it every day. But like I was talking to Rod, it really depends on what roads are slated to be fixed next.
Yeah, okay. Okay, those are my questions.
So yeah, it all depends on which roads we're gonna be fixed. We'll go from there.
Councilor Gilroy, I see you had your hand up.
First of all, I'm glad to hear that you were considering a major roadway yet, because I was going to say, I think we'd have to go through transportation to get some sort of approval for that. I like the idea of putting it either there or maybe even near the McIntyre Park, which has a lot of stuff over there. So you're suggesting that the expense for the town would be the poles and the whole crosswalk, like a formal crosswalk setting, if I'm correct. I believe your letter also talked about benches, and that, how would that fit in as well if it was across from where, for example, the bank?
So when I was first talking with Rod, we weren't quite sure what it would look like because we weren't quite sure. I personally wasn't quite sure what roads were going to be done. I would prefer it to be on the road, on a crosswalk. We threw in a bench idea just as kind of an off-kilter idea, but I would prefer it to be on the like a crosswalk, similar to what other communities are doing in the area.
Councilor Long?
Could we, with the four-way stop just down past the Royal and the Hydro building, that would give us 4 crosswalks to work with. That might be a good place to look at. Wise, probably not fair, but yes, I think. Go ahead, Darren.
Ideally that's where I would like it to be because I would like it to be centered.
Perfect.
Sorry, not sure how these Zoom meetings work. Ideally that is where I would like it to be.
And I think
But
we
I do believe,
details.
I had heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, that that's the wrong. I'm sorry?
No, that's okay. I think we can work on those details. I think, we did see your proposal in the agenda. I guess I just want to make sure if there's any other questions, because it's a while before we get to that particular agenda item. But it's a pretty straightforward, and you're just going to bring it back, and then we could, finalize any details if we do go ahead with it. But like I say, it seems like a great idea to move ahead with, as long as the only other question I have is what would the needs from the town be on an ongoing basis to maintain this and operationalize this? What do you like every year it would have to be repainted, is that the?
So I have I have secured funding for the initial setup. And from what I understand with the type of paint that we are going to be using, it will last 3 years. And what it would look like, what I would ask from the town going forward is to set aside, it wouldn't be more than $500 every 3 years for maintenance. I'm assuming it would be closer to $200, $250, and it would be just for maintenance.
Okay.
And then, of course, we would have volunteers come and do the painting.
Right, thank you for that. Is there any other questions for Jennifer at this time? No? Well, thank you, Jennifer, for your presentation, and like I said, we're gonna be dealing with it later tonight. So you have the option of staying online if you want, but it'll be a little while, or, you can just wait and our administration will get back to you tomorrow or the next day with what our decision is. It's up to you.
Absolutely, that sounds great. Thank you so much. If you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out at any time.
Thank you very much for coming in. Great idea.
Thanks, Jennifer. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer.
Okay, we'll move on then to our peace officers report. Can I get a motion on this one? Councillor Gilroy?
The council received the senior peace officers August 2021 report for information.
Thank you. Is there, I'll turn it over to Mr. Bloom. Give us any highlights.
Good evening, council. Nothing out of the ordinary for this month. You might notice that I have been starting to send warnings on notice out to people with garage sale signs left on the boulevards. The two that I did send out, I think, get a good compliance, and they were picked up prior to them getting their, or after they get their warning. So only warnings are sent, nothing else as far as enforcement practice there. Other than that, I'm open for any questions council might have.
All right. Any questions, council? Councillor Danaka?
My question is on August, municipal warnings for.
Yes.
Or no, yes, for 16. What were those for? Can you just give us a quick recap of what those warnings were for? Any COVID?
There was, the majority were for dogs barking, and there were 7 unlicensed dogs notices sent out. There's also a couple loitering warnings issued. So the majority of it was for the dog issues.
As well, have you had it to deal with any COVID issues from businesses with having to deal with patrons that are not being receptive or rude?
I've only received one complaint to date, saying that the provincial government has not issued our appointments or our authorities to enforce any restrictions that the provincial government has enforced or implemented. So all citizens and the residents comply with the Public Health Act. Until we get anything from the government, our hands are tied. I have been told to forward any complaints to the Public Health Inspector, which we did in prior months. So that's the best thing we can do right now is just forward any complaints to Public Health Act or the Public Health Inspector.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Oh, Councilor Gilroy?
Sorry, I was waiting to see if Judy was gonna say something first, because I can already see a certain number of cases there. The 7 unlicensed dog notices says, are they new dogs, or how did this, it become late to have, still people outstanding from the beginning of the year, so these must be new dogs, I would assume.
Yes, they were. Yeah.
Okay. Last call for questions, comments? Seeing none, I want to thank Alan for your report. And we have a motion to receive for information. All in favor? Carried. And then we'll move on to our Public Works report. Can I get a motion on this one? Councilor Long?
Council received the September 2021 Public Works Report for information.
Well, you got that quicker than I thought you would. That was good job. Good catch. All right, with that,
Thanks.
Yeah. I can see Vern's unmuted himself, so I'll turn it over to Vern. That was the highlights.
Okay, I just want to let council know that the reservoir is full and it will be topped off as necessary. The rain that fell in late or early August has really finished it off, and the river is back running again. And also, just working with AHS, we have a tentative site meeting with the contractor on Monday for the demolition function. And I'll open up for questions.
Okay, thank you for that. Questions, anyone? Councilor Danaka, I see you.
So I just have a question regarding the AHS and the hospital demolition. Is that to remediate the asbestos, or is that to take down the hospital, or is it a two-step process, or do you know?
From what I understand, it's a two-step process. The first people coming in are going to remediate the asbestos, and then they will come in and demolish the hospital and restore the site to low maintenance site, which be grass and a scalable site. What I'm understanding.
Do we have a timeline on how long this is going to take?
They figure it might take 5 to 7 months for the asbestos. So basically all winter, and then next summer they figure it's going to be completed by the end of July next year. That's the information I've been given.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Stenhouse?
In your report, it says, you fixed the site that was vandalized. Were they fixed or did you have to replace them?
We had to replace some of them, we were able to take the paint off with a anti-graffiti, marker, or remover. So some were fixed, some were replaced.
Thank you.
Just curious, Vern, what was the cost on replacing one of those signs?
They're about $200 a piece.
All right, any other questions? Councillor Long?
Vern, did you know about the one coming out of the trailer park? The yield sign there is all, oversprayed. I didn't know if you knew of that one.
I haven't been made aware of that one. I'll mark it down right now.
Maybe I just think that's okay.
Yeah, Alan has been giving us, when they're doing their facial, giving us.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, any other questions? No, seeing none. Thank you for your report, Vern. Yeah, and it's good to see all the cleaning up and the leaves. I saw them going around. That was great. And the leaves are going to be falling like crazy. You'll never stay ahead of it, but it's good to have them clean before winter hits, as much as we can.
Well, they are beautiful. You've seen the pictures on global news today, so that is one of the highlights of those streets.
It is, absolutely. Yeah. All right, we have a motion to receive this report for information. All in favor? That is carried. And moving on then to our regular meeting of council on September 14th. Get a motion on those minutes? Councilor Gilroy. No, you were muted on that.
Okay, I'll say it again. Council approved the minutes from the September 14th, 2021 regular meeting of council as amended.
Thank you. Any changes or alterations needed to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. Moving on then to our September 21st, a special meeting of council. Get a motion on those minutes. Councillor Courtlay. No, you're still muted also.
Oh, there we go. Hey, sorry about that. The council approved the minutes from the September 21st, 2021 special meeting of council as presented.
Yeah, you can tell we're a little rusty on our Zoom meetings. It's been a little while. We've had the pleasure of meeting face to face for a while. It's glad that we've got a little rust. It was nice to have a little break for a while. But thank you for the motion. Any changes or alterations to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. Moving on to item 6.1. Get a motion on the human resource management. Councilor Senhouse?
The council received the following human resource management policies. Admin 01-2015, admin -04-2007, admin -65-2014, admin -21-2003, admin -36-2007, admin -03-2012, admin
a monster. Yeah. All right, okay, so with that, I'll throw it open for any discussion, or maybe we'll start with our CAO to just give us the rationale for moving those out of policy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, this item was brought forward a month or so ago. This will come back to the following meeting, but the agenda was just too big, so I chose to put it on this one, just so you're wondering why I missed the meeting. So we talked a little bit about it last go round. But basically what this RFP is requesting is that basically the whole governance model of municipal governance and how the municipal government act is laid out. And really as a council, you vote to the governing body, you set policy, direction, and set budgets, and your employee is CAO, and CAO is responsible for the carrying out of council's strategies and bylaws and with the budget allocations that you folks give. And so the policies, the past practice of the municipality has been that personnel policies come through the council for approval. That's not really how it should work. You have me be held accountable for the operations of the jurisdiction, and therefore the personnel policies and associated policies should fall under the CAO's authority. And so that's what this is doing. At the last meeting, there was some discussion with regards to health and safety. I removed that one from this RFP for the last go round, just to expedite the process, not talk about OHS. I can tell you that the OHS one should also fall under the CAO. I've gone through municipal affairs and some other jurisdictions, and the OHS policy falls under the CAO. But to get the process started, I wanted to put these ones down and look for direction. Thank you.
Okay, I see Councillor Gilroy. Go ahead.
Okay, Rod, just a quick question. If we receive these motions tonight, or these policies tonight, is there something already in place under your management so that they don't just disappear? In other words, we're moving the authority from the council to CAO. You don't want to lose what we're already getting rid of. So is there something in place where it just transfers that over to you so that if we get rid of it, it's still there to protect the employees of the town?
So there will be probably 12 hours, no policies, I guess, in a nutshell, because they are rescinded tonight, they won't get signed until tomorrow. If that's one piece. I mean, you want to put it into the day, but really there's no intention to change any of those policies the way they are now tomorrow. Basically a photocopy with a new signature, and that's what's going to be happening here over the next several weeks. There's no change policies going to be implemented tomorrow.
Other questions? Rod, the one question I have is if in the future council wants to know what the HR procedure or handbook is that going to be posted where they can see what's listed and what's in there?
Absolutely. There's going to be no secret to our personnel policy. In fact, you go to, I call it administrative directives, or administrative procedures, things. But always be posted on our website. Our website needs a little bit of work to distinguish between different policies. But you go on just about any other jurisdiction website, and you can have access. So yeah, there's no secrets, there's nothing to hide. Absolutely, they can be made available.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this one? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Courtney.
I don't know, I just have
just wondering, like, because the council still has to be involved with a lot of the different things when it comes to policies and what's going on. I understand what you're trying to do, but it's just, it kind of eliminates council doing anything that has to do with the town and the town employees, I guess, which I know we should be disassociated anyways, but some of these policies, yeah, I'm just struggling with the whole approval of this. I got a burning thought in my mind that's not right, so I don't know, that doesn't help you, but it, I don't know, so that's, okay, that's this batch. Do you have another batch coming of policy?
I think, when I see on the policies, I think there's two more in the bucket that probably should be rescinded, and delegated. Say the OHS one, it's really the line is this. So on the OHS, it basically is talking about employees and contractors and staying safe. That's an administrative function and falls under the CAO. If there was some OHS stuff relative to, like public areas, let's say, that council wanted to do, I don't know, wanted no more fall balls, so you wanted a fence to go 200 feet in the air, like that would be a council decision because you're looking at the safety of the general area. That's a terrible example, but as far as ensuring staff gets OHS training and us holding contractors accountable for OHS, that falls under the administrative component of it. I understand this is a shift. It's a shift. This is what the town has been doing for probably forever. And a lot of small jurisdictions are still in that boat. But it clearly isn't proper governance. You as the governing body hold the CAO responsible. And, there's other ways to address it, like, as far as the performance appraisal piece, you could say things like, Rod, can you review, or the CAO, can you review 3 personnel policies annually, or, hearing concerns on this, can you look into that policy? But it really does remove council from the day-to-day operations. That is something that shouldn't occur, and it's laid out pretty clearly in the MGA. But I know it's a shift. It's a shift from where we are today. And I know change is tough, especially when it's been, happening for a long period. So I understand that there may be some discomfort with council on the regular process, but that's how the MDA is set up.
For example, just to put it in place, I've been in council for only 6 years, but all those 6 years, we've been hammered on to make sure that we make the policy, policy. Now all of a sudden, here it is, like, well, we shouldn't have made any policies. Right?
So council absolutely is responsible for the bylaws and set general policy for the organization. Absolutely, it is critical. That is a council's job. It's a definition of what a policy is. So you're doing a policy on policies. We have a sponsorship policy. We have a snow removal policy. We got tons, and those are absolutely in council's daily work. 100%. You give direction to the CAO, and the CAO is responsible to have staffing in place to deal with those policies. Anything with regards to the do, or the, how it gets done, falls under the CAO, and therefore the CAO should have responsibility, the authority to ensure that those things are done. So there's a big issue as far as what a policy is versus directive. And typically, most people call policies a council policy, which is like snow, flag, sponsorship. Those are true policies. Then, if it falls under the CAO, some people still call them administrative policy, some call them administrative directives. So it's really just a play on the word. But the true sense of the word policy, council policy, is a broader strategic directive. Administrative, you can still call it administrative policy, but a lot of people go to administrative directive or something like that. I don't know if that helps you.
Oh, it does, I get that, yeah. Yeah. It just feels like it's relieving some onus basically on the council, right? You're eliminating some onus on the council so that they're not involved with the policy making, but maybe like you say, maybe we shouldn't be, maybe there's certain policies we shouldn't be involved in, so. Somebody else had their hand up, I think, Ryan.
Yeah, Councillor Janak, are you done?
I'm done.
Okay.
So basically, the job of council is to govern, as the CAO said. There are some policies that fall under the council, as Rod mentioned, the flag policy, snow removal policy, that kind of stuff. But the policies that he's listed here, that has nothing to do with governance. Cell phones, travel allowance, all of these policies have nothing to do with governance, so they should not, council should have nothing to do with that. That's up to where the CAO is at the time to deal with administrative. These are administrative, not governance policies.
And you know what, I see where you're coming from, and I would love to see that list of, where the line is, to say, okay, these are what we're involved with, and this is where we're not involved and would like to move over. It would be nice for that list to be a little more clear so that everybody understands that list, because right now it's not really clear. And you're absolutely right, it's a change. And my only, things like the cell phone use policy and stuff, we don't, we do have some people that might have thoughts, and we've got people that might have some expertise, but, all of these policies are out there, you're just adopting them for our committee, or for our town, but the big one is, how do we as council know that, I'm just picking one, staff Christmas appreciation policy, that, administration isn't changing that to give everybody $25,000 at Christmas. I'm being, facetious, of course, but, the intent there is, if it was too big, we would notice it in the budget, but how do we know? That's where I get is the ones that involve finance, how do we know about those? Because I'm not worried about the internet and email use policy, but if something's going to cost us a lot of money, the council should know about that. I see Rob's ready to answer.
Yeah, so the line is, council sets the budget. And so, we have various lines that include various things, and, there's the ability to see what falls under the personnel piece. And there is something that's specific to the council's request as far as, if there is something that council really wants to know, that's something that can be requested of council for administration to provide. I've been in situations like that several times where they've asked, where council's asked, how much is done on staff appreciation? How much is done on training? So those requests absolutely come through. There's nothing, just for example, like a couple weeks ago, council talking about, an appreciation of, or recognition of good work and, potentially doing an educational type of a bonus to somebody that's, did extraordinary work. On some of those appreciation things, maybe even at the Christmas turkey, for example, maybe staff would prefer to have, I'm just making this up, like, Easter.
$25,000.
Well, yes. Well, I wasn't going to get that through the budget. Because it is, it still is only so much there. At council lights, and that's something you can request how much is allocated to staff appreciation. So you can still get at it through another way, especially through the budget process. How much is allocated to that piece? Even now, let's say there is there's a policy right there. It says, the Christmas turkey. Well, what happens if I said right now, I'm going to give each staff $25,000. Could still do it. There's no policy that says I can't give $25,000. Probably wouldn't be here very long. But there's no policy that says Rod can't give a cash reward. No, don't get me wrong. Wouldn't do it, but just there's no policy that says Rod can't do that. So, there's other ways of getting the information. I think the whole personnel policy, and we're finding it as we speak with even COVID, there are things that need to be changed fast. And as you know, the last 7 months, we had a big struggle of getting through a couple policies. And I think we really do need to move on some things, especially with COVID. As far as almost like OH&S pieces that we need to incorporate. So we need to move fairly quickly. We haven't done much, but we have to adapt a lot quicker than we are. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, just how do you communicate currently? How do you communicate changes to like some of these policies to the staff? What happens?
So there's been no changes. So first, there have been no changes because all policies have been going through council, and we've had a ton on our plate last year.
But there was the one in 2020. Like, how did you communicate that out in 2020?
So
how does it get communicated out to staff that this policy has changed?
So what my practice is, so there's a couple ways. So right now we're looking at the code of conduct, we're looking at attendance management, and drug and alcohol. So there's three that are really dated, extremely dated. Our existing personnel policy is very dated. And so management group has been reviewing a draft of that over the last several months. What we had planned on doing is we were going to have a staff kind of event, wherever I've been, I've done kind of an annual overview of what some of the accomplishments we did over the past year, some of our struggles, and looking to the future. That we were going to do this month, but because of COVID, we canceled, but we were also going to unveil these policies and these draft, procedures, but draft procedures and asking for some feedback. So we know in a lot of these, at least when I've gone through them before, there's always a lot of questions. And if you look at a code of conduct, some places it's 10 pages, some places 5, and some places it's 100 pages. We picked one that was kind of in the middle, and we went through it from a management perspective, there were questions. And so one of the things we want to do is get feedback from staff, and maybe there's something missed, or maybe there's some additional clarity questions that require us to do an FAQ document on that, and get some feedback from the staff, and then approve it. So on something that's more of a collaborative approach, something will be management driven, and we'll do that. But the success of any policy is clarity and ensuring staff understand things and even buy in them. So it's a bit of sometimes it's manager's hat, and sometimes it's more of a collaborative effort. Like things like
I can appreciate the process and